Good evening, everyone. I'm Hector Gunther, Chair of the Barnstable Comprehensive Financial Advisory Committee. Today is June 23rd, 2025, and this is our meeting on a Monday night. We meet every other week during 10 months of the year, except during July and August when we meet once. I have to say that in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, any member of the public is welcome to record this meeting as long as he or she makes himself known to the chair. Is there anyone who wants to record the meeting? Hearing none. Chris Lazon, can you call the roll, please?
Yes. Hector?
Yes, here.
Chuck, I guess technically, is he still, should I call his name or no?
Yes, he's still a
Yeah.
member of the committee.
Okay, so Chuck's not here. Lillian?
Here.
Jim?
Present.
Tom?
Here.
Jeremy? Not here. Chris King?
Here.
And I am here, so we have a quorum.
Excellent. Jeremy just sent Mark and me an email that he has some last minute matters to take care of for his upcoming wedding. So he asked to be excused from tonight's meeting. He's very sorry for the late notice.
I guess that's an okay excuse.
Yeah,
I'm not sure it is. Come on.
tough crowd here. All right. So the first item on our agenda is to solicit public comment. I don't see any members of the public here, so we'll move on to the next one. There's a granddaughter yelling downstairs, and I'm trying to see if she's yelling for me. Next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes for June 9th, 2025. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Great. Any comments? And before we do this, Mark made some revisions, which have been circulated to all of you in a Word file. Not sure if you've seen them, but it would be, the changes were clarifying changes on page 2, where we talked about the model and some of the changes to the model that the committee made during last meeting. So Mark, maybe it makes sense to put that page up on the screen, or has everybody seen the revised file that Mark
I have
sent?
not, Hector. I have not.
Okay. Well, Mark, maybe it makes sense if you put page 2 up.
Okay, is everybody seeing this okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Just one typo on page 1. Chris Lazon's name is misspelled. And then other than that, if anyone has any changes, we can look at page 2. So I think what Mark did was clarified the first 3 or 4 bullets so that the model changes and the model details were more clearly laid out than in the first draft of the minutes. And I think they're fine, but I'm happy to take any comments.
I think the expansion is well made.
Mark, if you could scroll down to the bottom of that page. One comment I would make is the first bullet under discussion. I believe the point was that Barnstable is the only Cape community with dedicated funds for sewer and wastewater infrastructure. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think what we were talking about there is that how the Barnstable is the only community, to my knowledge, that has dedicated the meals and rooms taxes and short-term rental taxes for such purpose.
Oh, okay. Okay. And the only community in the state or on the Cape?
On the Cape, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe we could insert the word Cape in front of community or on the Cape. Yeah. Any comments, questions? All right, if none, happy to accept a motion, happy to have Chris call the roll to approve the minutes as revised.
Okay, Hector,
Yes,
Lillian,
yes,
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Chris King,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
excellent. All right, next item on the agenda. Mark wanted to go over some summary changes and updates on the fiscal year 2025 operating budget, which concludes the end of this month. And these changes pertain to the general fund and several of the enterprise funds. So Mark, please go ahead. And by the way, all of these, a variety of these pages were sent by Mark to us in an email within the last hour.
Thank you, Hector. So, yeah, I just wanted to share with the committee, as we approach the end of June here and the end of the fiscal year, what things are looking like for the town's general fund and as well as all the enterprise funds. What I have up here right now is the budget versus actual statement for the town's general fund. And you can see here, beginning with our various revenue categories right now, and we still have more revenue to collect as well. I mean, there's a couple of weeks worth of revenue to be recorded still. So this isn't final by any means, but to date, we've collected over $12 million more than what was budgeted. The biggest favorable variance here is in property taxes. And what's happening with property taxes is that we're collecting a lot of prior year's taxes this year. We've had a couple of years of we've hired an outside counsel to help us with the collection of back taxes and those properties that are in tax title. And what we're seeing is a good return on that investment with a lot of those older tax title accounts being cleaned up, as well as prior year's taxes that aren't in tax title yet, but people are paying them off. So it's been a good year for tax collections. As far as the fiscal year 25 levy itself goes, we've collected over 99% of the fiscal year 25 tax levy in fiscal year 25. That's the highest percentage we've ever seen. We're typically around 96 to 97%, but we're just over 99% to date. And motor vehicle excise taxes still continue an upward trend. We broke $10 million in motor vehicle excise tax collections this year. First time we've ever done that. Almost 1.5 million more than what we used to set the budget in fiscal year 25.
What do you ascribe the increase to, Mark?
Increased cost of vehicles and people
Yeah.
continuing to replace their vehicles because the excise tax, as you know, is based on the MSRP, the manufacturer's suggested retail price. And if we continue to see that number go up, that means people are replacing their older vehicles with newer vehicles. And the prices of vehicles are going up. And so, we have consistently seen an increase over the years. And there's more vehicles as well.
Yeah.
So in the town of Barnstable.
Yeah, there's very little, if any, tariff impact in that number, I would think. Not for this year anyway.
Not for this year, not for this year. We'll see what happens in fiscal year 26 if that changes, but there could be a number of things that could affect the auto industry. We've seen it happen before, right? There's been a few times during economic downturns where the auto industry's been hit hard and had to be bailed out by the federal government in some cases. So,
Mhm.
Mark, can you comment on the expenses required to bring in that additional 7,000? What is that? Just a fee-based service that you're receiving that's collecting those additional property taxes?
oh yes, yeah. So you mean the outside counsel that we've hired?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So the way that works is their fee that they charge us can be added to the amount that's due to their passed on to the amount that's due by the property tax person who owns the property taxes. And so, yeah, we don't have to pay them as an expense. We can add that cost to the amount collected. So that's allowed by Mass General Law. So, that encourages people to pay their taxes on time to avoid that. So, and the hotel motel tax, we still have one more payment. The end of June, we usually around the 29th, 30th of June, we'll get that payment from the state. Last year's June 30th payment was about $250,000. So we expect to exceed that budget once we receive that payment. Charges for services, we're still collecting revenue again for a couple more weeks to go for this category, and a lot of this is waterside activity, like the parking and beach sticker revenue is included in this category. So we expect to hit that revenue estimate. But fines and penalties, those are all associated with the late payment on taxes. As we've been successful in collecting those past due taxes, we have almost $1 million surplus there.
But those fines and penalties, at least with property taxes, those get paid out to the collection lawyers. Yeah.
No, that's our money. This is interest. This is interest that they owe. Most of it's outstanding interest. Yep. Yep.
So the property tax revenue item is net of any penalty fees that the property owner pays.
Yeah, property tax line item is strictly the property taxes. Yep. Yep. Not the interest on any past due amounts. The interest goes in this category.
Okay.
And any penalties that are assessed for those late payments on top of interest. Yeah, so in intergovernmental, departmental revenue, special assessments, everything has come in just over budget. Investment income still remains strong. We had a conservative revenue estimate for that. We still have another month of investment income to record once the June ends and we get all our statements from the banks. We'll have that posted by the end of July. I expect that to hit $4 million by the time we record our June investment income.
That's a home run. $1.7 million over budget, and it'll be $1.9 million by the time we're done. What was the assumption was conservative? Was it an interest rate assumption that you made for this budget?
No, we just conservatively we use a conservative estimate for investment income because that could change very quickly. They start cutting interest rates. We could easily see what we get return on our investments dramatically decline, just like they've dramatically increased over the past couple of years. They could easily reverse that direction. So we don't want to get ourselves locked into an overly high investment income revenue estimate in the event that interest rates go down. And
what do you happen to remember? What is the fiscal 2026 investment income estimate?
I think we used 2.9 million.
2.9. Okay.
2.7 to 2.9 million, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you.
On the expenditure side, you can see every department here is expected to have return funds, but they are still wrapping up their year-end purchasing, getting those year-end supplies or contracting for those professional services. They have until June 30th to do this, to get a contract in place. And so these numbers will probably go down a little bit, but as you can see, everybody's within budget. Nobody's going to exceed their budget. We do have a snow and ice removal deficit, which is the only category that is allowed by mass law, where you can deficit spend. So what will happen with the $343,000 deficit was we'll have to raise it next year in our budget, and we've provided that in our FY26 budget development. So that's been provided for.
And the swing in fixed costs,
Yep.
what's that attributable to?
Yeah, most of that is attributable to our health insurance.
Okay.
We had really because of the change in health insurance last year of going from 50% to 70%, and happening during this simultaneously as open enrollment for our health insurance plans was happening. We had to prepare an estimate, and a conservative estimate, to anticipate people changing plans, going to more expensive plans as a result of the town contributing more towards health insurance, as well as trying to estimate how many more people were going to take town's health insurance as a result of that change. And so we had a higher estimate in there than what we needed. And so that will provide us unexpended appropriation money that we can return back to the general fund, creating more surplus for the general fund. So that's what most of the fixed cost money is.
So, Mark, it seems like you like to, maybe it's you or the town likes to budget about 5% less than what comes in as actual, so that you have 5% more revenue than what was budgeted, and about the same amount on the expenditures. So it's a kind of a 5%, which is pretty reasonable, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of the unexpended funds, but in the departments, are the result of vacancy savings with having so many positions that turn over during the year, and then it could take a few months to refill that position. So you end up with excess salary money that doesn't get expended.
Sure.
And that,
Sure.
But the other thing too is in the fixed cost category, we had remaining ARPA funds from the $7 million ARPA grant that the town received. We could use that for any municipal expenditure. And so what we did is we charged some of that health insurance costs off to the ARPA funds too, because we had to use those ARPA funds up by December 31st, 2024. And so we had some remaining funds. We didn't want to return them to the federal government. So we covered some of our health insurance costs with that. And what that'll do is create general fund surplus for us. That was a one-time event though, so we won't have that opportunity again. Yeah, so we budgeted almost $15 million here of surplus to balance the budget, and we're actually going to generate about a $5 million surplus. So that's a positive $20 million swing.
Right.
So it was, again, we're going to end the fiscal year strong. We'll continue to have strong reserves. There is concern about the amount of reserves we're using to balance reoccurring operational costs. We realize that, but we're in a position to buy time to implement, if we find a need that we have to start looking at reductions. We've set ourselves up in a position to do that in a thoughtful, methodical way by having the reserves we do and not having to go haphazardly at it and telling every department, hey, cut 3% out of your budget next year. No, we can look at it more strategically and do it over a period of time with the reserves that we've built. And that's one of the reasons you build reserves, to allow you to implement strategies like that when times do get tough. So that's the general fund. I also have several enterprise funds here that I can share with you. Let me just switch my screen here. Starting with the airport. So. Okay, are you seeing this okay?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
so here's the airport. Again, strong jet fuel sales has contributed to most of that $1 million charges for services surplus here. Again, strong investment income, just like the general fund. And again, more revenue to be recorded still, some more expenditures to be recorded. But as you can see, with a week left in the fiscal year, we have a $2.2 million favorable variance in the airport enterprise funds. They're going to end the fiscal year in a strong position.
And again, the investment income actual is 2.5 times the budget. Does the finance department set the budgeted number for investment income
Yes,
for the
we do.
airport, or do they do it? They do
We
it.
do it.
You do it.
Yes.
Anyway, that's a home run.
Yeah, I mean, so Mark, I did a quick review of all of these, and it looks like all of them have a favorable variance, with the exception of HYCC, which you would expect, and then which was unexpected to me, which was waste. Waste came in with a unfavorable variance. I don't want to skip ahead or skip through, but I just wanted to kind of summarize it so that you can then maybe run through it at a top level a little faster, because there are quite a bit of enterprise funds.
Yeah. So thank you for that, Chris. I will try to do that because I don't want to take up too much of your time with details on this stuff. But let me just grab the other enterprise funds here. As Chris noted, all of the enterprise funds are favorable, with the exception of solid waste, but I'll talk about that more in a minute. So here's the Gulf Enterprise Fund, a favorable variance of $262,000. They've hit their revenue targets. They've hit their expenditure targets. They're within their budgets. So they're in good shape. Here's the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund. You'll notice $800,000 of charges for services. This is why they have that deficit, because it's renewal time for your permit, right? And it happens in the month of June and July. A lot of people, and it was seeing more and more of a trend here. It looks like that people are not renewing their permits by June 30th. We still got a couple more weeks of revenue to record here. I know there's like over $400,000 or $500,000 of deposits made in the bank that haven't been recorded to this yet by the treasurer's office, but people are in the process of renewing their permits. More will take place the first couple of weeks of July as they come back to the transfer station, and they can't access it unless they pay their permit. So we get to take that revenue that we earn, or that we take in the month of July, and we get to accrue it back to fiscal year 25. So I anticipate, unless we have a lot of big drop off in permit holders, I anticipate that we will hit that revenue target. So that's the only one that we actually see that situation in. Here's the Water Pollution Control, the Sewer Enterprise Fund. Again, all revenue targets have been hit. We're within all expenditure budgets. Same thing with the Water Enterprise Fund. We have one whole month of revenue. We have an outside contractor that manages the billing and collection for us. They haven't sent us, of course, the month of June yet, because it's not done. Once we receive that and we post that, they will hit these revenue targets, because they take in $600,000 to $700,000 a month this time of year. So they're going to be fine. The marinas hit their revenue targets and they're within their expenditure budgets. Same thing with Sandy Neck, hit their revenue targets, and the people are still in the process of renewing their ORV permits. We get a lot of ORV permits in the month of June, and with a couple of weeks left, we'll see more revenue posted here still. HYCC, they've hit their revenue targets, and they've also are within their budget overall. So, and finally, the PEG Enterprise Fund, they've hit their revenue targets, almost $45,000 excess revenue and about $100,000 of unexpended appropriations. So, all in all, it's
Pretty good.
The enterprise funds are good. The general fund's in good shape. It sets us up to be in a good position going into the budget building for fiscal year 27. We're confident that the revenue projections that we use for fiscal year 26 will be achievable based on these results, with the caveat that, an economic situation could hit the town at any point in time. You never know what's happening, especially with, the world events that are happening that happened this last weekend, and how that might impact the near future. We'll see, if at all. But yeah, it's every day is a new day, and we take any information we can get on a daily basis and try to factor it in here.
Mark, your investment income assumptions for 2026. I think you mentioned that it's going to go up substantially for the general fund, and I assume the others are going to go up as well. What is your interest rate outlook that informs your assumption there?
Yeah, so we don't anticipate, based on what we're hearing, what really impacts our investment rates are what the Feds do, right? With the night rate. And so there hasn't been a lot of talk about making significant reductions to that rate. And so if they just, if they were to start decreasing rates, they usually do it 25 basis points at a time. And they may, at a maximum do that maybe 3 or 4 times in a fiscal year. And so that would reduce our ability to earn interest pretty much correspondingly by whatever they cut that rate. And so we feel that, increasing that interest revenue estimate by as much as we did is still achievable, because if they were to implement like 100 basis point cut over the course of the fiscal year, we still should achieve $3 million of investment income easily in the general fund.
But the money's being invested in, not in strictly short-term deposits, but you probably have a ladder of securities going out probably a couple of years, I would say. Securities and CDs.
Yeah, a lot of it's laddered, with different maturities. We try, again, our number one priority is safety. We don't do anything risky. Our second priority is liquidity. We can't invest things in, long-term investments tying up those funds, because we have vendor payments and payroll to make. And so we have to make sure we have enough in the liquid form. And then, the third priority, of course, is yield. And so we have a whole mix of investments that we have. But a lot of the liquid stuff is like in money market accounts, CDs, short-term CDs, and things like that. But stuff that we can quickly get access to if we need to. But we don't have any cash that's idle, sitting in an account with a 0% rate of return. It's all in some kind of investment or savings account that's getting a return on its principal.
Other questions for Mark?
No, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's excellent financial management.
Yeah, this is Sean O'Brien, our treasurer, does a phenomenal job managing that portfolio. And he keeps me updated on a monthly basis with what he has everything invested in, and we review that. And he does a fantastic job for the town. And he's the guy working with the outside counsel as well on property taxes and chasing down the tax title accounts. And so he's done great work for the town these past couple of years since he's been on board.
Great. Well, if no other questions, let's move on to the next item, which is election of chair, vice chair, and clerk for the next fiscal year. So I guess the best way to proceed is let's start with chair. Are there any nominations for chair? Don't be shy.
Jim, are you talking? You're on mute. I think I saw your lips moving.
Yeah, that's always a giveaway. But no, I apologize. I just wanted to nominate Chris Lazone for the position of chair. I think his dedication to the committee was hard work and experience and leadership. I think is something that we could are in need of at the moment. So
I'll second that nomination.
Excellent. Other nominations? All right.
Well,
So, Mark-
Hector, I know you had expressed an interest in serving again, so
Mhm.
you talked to me about that a couple of weeks ago. So I will
Mhm.
nominate you and put it out there
Okay,
in case
Thank you.
someone feels the same way and wants to second that.
so we're looking for seconds for Chris's nomination.
I'll second
I sec-
Chris's
I sec-
nomination.
I seconded Chris's nomination earlier.
No, Chris, the nomination that Chris just made of me. That's what I was
Oh,
referring to.
Oh, that's what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll second Chris Lazone's nomination of you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other nominations? All right. I guess, Mark, the next thing is to ask for a vote. So why don't we go around the room and each person vote for either of the two nominees? Start with Lillian.
I vote for Chris.
Excellent. Chris?
I will give you my vote, Hector.
Okay, thank you. Tim?
you say Jim?
Jim,
Yeah.
Jim Sproul, yeah.
Chris Lazone, please.
Okay. Tom?
Chris, I guess I'm just curious about your nomination and your vote. If you were elected, would you serve?
Yes, if the committee decides they want to elect me, I will serve, but I had spoken with Hector a couple of weeks ago and he indicated he wanted to serve again. And I told him I would nominate him, so I want to stand to that since I told him that. But I'm certainly willing to serve if the committee feels that I'm best suited to do so.
Okay. I'll vote for Kristen.
Okay. And Chris King?
I will vote for Chris Lazone.
All right, and I'll vote for myself. So I think
Right.
Chris Lozon wins it 4-2, if I'm not mistaken.
Congratulations,
is correct.
Chris.
Congratulations, Chris.
Congrats,
Thank you.
Chris.
Thank you. I
All right.
appreciate it.
Congrats, Chris, and thank you, Hector.
You're
Yes.
welcome.
Yes, thank you for serving, Hector.
All right. All right, the nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Jim Sproul.
I will second that.
Other nominations for vice chair.
Hector, do you want to be vice chair?
I'm happy to step down from an officer role altogether.
Okay,
So the answer is no.
all right.
All right. So I think we have one nomination for Chris Lazan. Mark, should we just go through the formality of voting for excuse me, for Jim Sproul voting for vice chair?
Sure. Yes.
Yes,
Okay. So Lillian,
yes,
Chris Lazan,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes for Jim.
Chris King,
Yes, for Jim also.
and I'll vote yes as well. That's unanimous. Excellent. All right, the third open position is for clerk. And I said to the committee last meeting, that I would reach out to Jeremy and try to ascertain his interest in serving as clerk. Or serving in any role. He and I traded calls, but we never did connect. So I don't have any knowledge of his desire to serve. So with that information, do other people have any nominations for clerk?
Chris, Lillian, do either of you want to serve? Chris King, that is.
Yeah, no, I got that. I had asked to not serve only because of business related activity is ramping up for me right now, and it's unpredictable. And so I wanted to hold off for this season, for this year. And
Here, okay.
you know, next year, as things settle out one way or the other, hopefully the positive way, then I'll be able to have a better feel for my time commitments. How about yourself, Tom?
I'm going to decline, given my time commitments. One trick I have learned, however, is that you vote for the person not in the room.
yeah, you do that. Yes.
Yes, does anyone
So
want to
I nominate
Jeremy?
Jeremy. I nominate Jeremy.
I'll
Unless
second
Lillian,
that.
you want to do it.
I'll second that.
Uh,
Jeremy
I'll
declines
remind
because
everyone the clerk, the only role is to call the roll, so it's not like it's a heavy lift at all.
Right. I bet Jeremy can handle it.
But you've done such a great job, Christopher, so we really appreciate that. And you lifted that really well.
Thank you.
Well, if there are no other, are there other nominations for clerk? So let's Jeremy's name is on the ballot. Let's go around the table. Lillian,
Yes,
Chris Lauzon,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Jeremy, yes.
and Chris King for Jeremy.
Yes.
Excellent. All right.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a great process. Thanks to all of you for all of your work this past year, and more to be done in the future. Any correspondence from committee members? And any other communications from staff, Mark?
Thank you, Hector. Yes, I just wanted to follow up with the committee to make sure that you all received the revised funding model that incorporated a municipal water infrastructure investment fund.
right.
The option to adopt one of those and what that would look like if that were adopted, how it would impact the funding model. So that has been distributed. And as you'll see, if all of the projects for fiscal year 26 to 23rd or 2026 to 2030 are appropriated by the council, and if we adopt a municipal infrastructure investment fund and we adopt a flow neutral policy, this fund maintains a strong positive balance throughout that 5-year period. Yeah, we'll present this. We do plan on, presenting this in the future to the town council, and maybe perhaps it'll be part of the upcoming fiscal policy discussion that we have, which I anticipate we're going to have that at the July meeting. And so this would be one of the tools that we can provide them an example of what it looks like. So I just wanted to see if anybody here had any questions on that. Just reach out to me, please.
Yeah, so I did have a couple of questions. One is, you circulated a revised model on June 10th. Is that the identical one that you sent around
Yes.
within the last couple of days? Okay. And the second comment is the benefit of adopting a flow neutral policy in terms of reduced interest expense over the life of this project is enormous. It's so I don't anticipate that the town council will oppose it. I can't imagine why they would, for the policy itself, but the benefits to the town in terms of getting revolving loan funding for all of the sewer projects, assuming we can live within the $50 million annual cap, it looked to be about $100 million swing over, or more than that, over the life of the projects. So that's an excellent change to put through, in my opinion.
I have a question for you, Mark, on that fiscal policy workshop in July. Would it be possible for members of CFAC to be observers at that meeting?
Oh, certainly. It's going to be, I think it's going to be part of their regular council meeting on the 17th of July.
Okay.
I think it'll be one of the agenda items. We'll probably have a workshop on that, or maybe a workshop format, but or may not be, but it'll be a presentation at some point during that meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's my anticipation. If things change, I'll certainly let the committee know, and
Thank you.
I will, make sure that so that you can attend if you'd like.
Excellent. Any other comments, questions? All right. Well, we had a very efficient meeting tonight, 45 minutes. I'll take a nomination to, not a nomination, a motion to close the meeting. Chris?
So moved.
Second.
Right. Chris Lazone, would you call the roll for the last time?
All right, Hector,
Yes.
Lillian,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Chris King,
Yes.
and I am a yes.
Excellent. And Chris Lazone, would you be in charge of letting Jeremy know that he's going to be the new clerk?
The good
Yes, I will give
news.
him the good news.
Okay.
I think Tom
Perfect.
should let him know.
Yeah. Stay cool, everybody.